Welcome to the Systems Change Crash Course by Ashoka, where we offer powerful tools for scaling social impact in any sector. My name is Reem Rahman, and it's my honor to have the chance to share knowledge that has been built on decades of experience around the world for making a difference in people's lives and the world we all care about. We're about to dive into Module 1 of this course, Scaling Social Impact, which will introduce you to what systems change is and why it matters. You can expect about 20 minutes of content and a self-assessment so that you can start applying ideas that you're introduced to right away. As a course made for and by entrepreneurs, you can always expect each part of this course to lead directly into a practical exercise that will help craft your own strategy for change. And specifically, we will provide the same deck template that entrepreneurs from our accelerator have created at the end of their learning journey. They've used this deck to launch new strategies, secure new collaborations, partner with new funders, or establish new leadership approaches for systems change. And we hope you will too. In order to learn about what systems change is, let me first tell you about a difficult challenge Peruvian resident Albina Ruiz found herself in. We first met Albina Ruiz in the introduction. We learned how she grew up in the Peruvian forest, where she rarely, if ever, saw garbage out in her village. But one day, when she moved to Lima, she was shocked. She saw uncollected garbage in the streets of her neighborhood. It was a problem so big it was leading to health issues in many parts of Peru. The waste problem was contaminating water, food, supplies, and spreading disease. Albina was passionate about tackling this issue, so she began to develop a solution. One night, she met a waste picker who was organizing trash and asked her what she was doing with it. The woman explained that she would sell it. This community member helped Albina realize what informal workers like her already knew, that trash can have economic value, and that there were tens of thousands of people already working as informal waste pickers. As a result of listening and iterating, Albina found she could solve the problem she cared about at greater scale if she helped to organize and create formal jobs for the thousands of waste pickers already working on the issue like the one that she met. So, Albina and her team started going from municipality to municipality, creating waste management plans and getting waste pickers formalized. Not only did her model start making an impact in reducing the waste problem, it was creating valuable community and economic impact and starting to spread faster than before. However, even after her solution started spreading, she realized her solution was not big enough to meet the scale of the problem. At one point, years had passed in Albina and her team applying their approach. Her team at Ciudad Saludable had gone to about 65 municipalities and realized that it would take hundreds of years to get to all municipalities in Peru if they continued going at the same pace. Hundreds of years. It's a type of jaw-dropping moment of realization you'd never forget. So this is the challenge that anyone who is passionate about making a difference faces. How even after years of trying, the problem you care about can still be around. Or in some cases, can have even gotten worse. For Albina Ruiz, realizing her approach was not going to address the full scale of the problem was a turning point to think even deeper about how she could create deep and lasting change. We've learned about this through decades of collective learning from finding and supporting the world's leading social entrepreneurs in over 170 countries. And that is the systems change approach. Systems change involves moving beyond tackling the symptoms of a problem to also tackling the root causes of a problem. Let's explore what we mean when we say that systems change is about not just tackling the symptoms of a problem, but also its root causes. Take some time to imagine with me that you are living in a forest. It has many wonderful parts to it that are thriving, but also parts that are struggling from issues such as waste deforestation, extinction, or mismanagement. There are a lot of issues, and it's hard to untangle one issue from another. But you get started. That's often the hardest part, isn't it? Just getting started. You might start by first organizing groups to collect the waste, or, like Albina later learned to do, by organizing informal laborers already collecting the waste. This approach is called a direct service because you provide a product or a service to people who are affected by a problem, helping them cope with the problem directly. But you notice this isn't enough. So, just like Albino, you start to work towards spreading the model to other forests facing the same problem. This is what people usually mean by the term scaling. You would still be reducing the waste, but now, instead of hundreds of people served, your model has grown so it can start serving thousands of people. Now, improving the life of thousands of people is no small thing. But this is the point, like Albina, that you may run the numbers and realize it could take hundreds of years to reach everyone who needs this service within your region. You might also see the problem getting worse. For example, the great service you set up to clear waste might mean people have less reason to worry about the waste they produce or about proper disposal, and so start producing more waste and discarding waste even more improperly. That's where the systems change approach comes in, working to ensure that the problem doesn't occur as much in the first place. In Albina's example, her initiative, Ciudad Saludable, worked with others to change national law and incentives for the major actors in the waste management system, ensuring that waste is collected, recycled, and disposed of in a safe manner, and ensuring that companies and citizens don't produce as much waste in the first place. This is an approach that tackles the root causes that drive the problem. And Albina and her team didn't stop there. Throughout the years, they also worked to create media campaigns, centers of learnings, and partnerships that would change the habits of individuals and the practices of large institutions that really drive the problems of solid waste getting produced and improperly disposed. Shifting mindsets like this is one of the most powerful approaches to tackling root causes that lead to systems change. This is because the policies that are created, the goals that people make, and purchasing decisions of people all stem from mindsets. Check out the additional resources listed in your workbook for a deep dive on this mindset shifts in particular, including a dedicated course by Ashoka on this topic. So far we've explored the first key idea of this course, that systems change is about tackling the root cause of a problem in such a way that it changes the way a system operates in the first place. In the example we explored, it's not just about reducing waste, the symptom of a problem, but coming up with a radically better collection system across multiple regions and countries. So, when you think about tackling the problem you care about, we recommend also including a systems change approach because it is a powerful way to create social impact and can address many of the limitations to only taking a direct service approach. As introduced earlier, a direct service approach is focused on meeting the immediate needs of a social problem and is critical for social impact. But there are three main limitations to direct service. First, the symptoms of a problem you are tackling can keep coming back. For example, better waste collection will of course not fix the issue of waste production or improper waste disposal itself. Second, the direct service approach is generally based on a linear relationship between the resources put in and the impact that comes out. For example, every additional unit of waste that is collected needs an additional unit of resource to manage it. Taking into account the limited philanthropic funding that's available and donor fatigue, the chances of creating large-scale and lasting solution with this direct approach can be low. Even with a business model or economies of scale, the resource-intense relationship of direct service may not change much fundamentally. To put it bluntly, We have yet to find someone who has solved a problem by making themselves as big as the problem. So, scaling organizations alone can be an inefficient approach for truly large-scale and long-lasting impact. In fact, addressing symptoms with a direct impact approach can have net zero or even net negative consequences. For example, tackling just the symptoms of a problem and not its root causes can create dependencies or shift the problem elsewhere in a way that ultimately prolongs or deepens a problem. Where, for example, is the waste that is collected shipped to? And what impact does that have for other communities that now have to live with that waste? Ouch! It always hurts to have someone else's problem dumped on you, no? Let's pause and apply this back to your work through a quick reflection that will also serve as a building block for this course. Turn to the workbook for this course and answer the question: what is a social problem you care deeply about? You will dive into this more deeply in the next module. So for now, just take 30 seconds to quickly jot down a few words. You will use the problem you care about to work through the exercises throughout the course. So, we've talked so far at length about why systems change matters, and you've taken some time to reflect on the problem you care deeply about so that you can use the learnings from this course directly to an issue that matters to you. Let's dive deeper into what systems change is by offering a succinct definition. Systems change means addressing root causes rather than symptoms. This is done by altering, shifting, or transforming structures, customs, mindsets, power dynamics, or rules. It is achieved by collaboration across a diverse set of actors, and the intent is to achieve lasting improvement of societal issues on a local or global level. Phew, that was a mouthful. But there are different types of learning approaches, and having a definition is one useful learning tool. So what exactly systems change strategy could mean for you in the context of the problem you are trying to fix will be at the heart of this course. Exercises in each module will guide you step by step on how to apply this approach. A tree analogy works well to help understand different approaches to creating social impact and how systems change fits in particular. The first level, direct service, is one important way of creating impact and focuses on addressing the immediate needs of specific individuals and communities. The next level, scaling your services, can expand your impact even further, reaching lots of people or communities through direct service. However, both of these levels of impact are generally tackling the symptoms of a problem, which can mean the problem will keep reappearing, and in some cases, getting worse. So the next level of impact is systems change, which is an approach that has greater potential for creating larger scale and longer lasting impact than by direct service alone, because it tackles the root causes of a social problem. It is what happens below the surface, and it can be especially effective when it involves shifting mindsets. Let's try out a quick self-assessment that is within your workbook to help you apply this idea of levels of impact to the social problem you care about. List 1 to 3 bullet points of the most important activities or impacts you have had or plan to have related to the problem you care about. For example, did you plant 10 trees yourself, or did you mobilize people to do it in a network? What are the kinds of things that you have already done? Remember, if you haven't gotten started yet, it could just be ideas of the type of impact you hope to create. Let's take time now to unpack the second key idea of this module, that systems change can have deeper and longer lasting change than tackling the symptoms alone. It's about tackling the root cause of a situation in such a way that it changes the way a system operates in the first place. So let's unpack more of what we mean when we say systems change is about creating larger scale and longer lasting impact, not just large scale and lasting impact. This is because we have learned over and over again from our network of entrepreneurs that systems change doesn't have to automatically imply massive scale. It's just a different type of change with the potential to create a larger scale impact on a given problem than a symptomatic change. Hearing the term systems change, we probably first think of huge systems like the financial system, democratic system, healthcare, or education. But systems change can also happen at smaller scale, like in local supply chains or in systems that aren't typically called systems or don't seem like a system at all, such as the waste collection system. If we continue with our previous example, and we emphasize longer lasting change because, unfortunately, systems don't just improve, but also can take a turn backwards. Even after a successful policy change, for instance, it might be undermined by a different policy change or perhaps simply not implemented well with little effect at the end. For that reason, it's better to think of systems change as improving and maintaining the health of a system rather than as, woohoo, mission accomplished. Ultimately, the key takeaway is that for a given problem, a systems or mindset shift approach has a greater potential to lead to larger scale and longer lasting impact than a direct service approach. Now that you have your list of activities or ideas, turn to your workbook and try to categorize them according to the different levels of impact that we talked about. Which of your achievements or ideas are in the area of direct impact, scale direct impact, systems change, or even contributing to a mindset shift? If you don't have anything under the systems change boxes or other boxes, don't worry. That's what this course is all about. In the additional resources included in your workbook, you can find more information, such as the one pictured here, to dive deeper about the impact spectrum and these different levels of impact. It includes how they're defined and some questions to consider as you try to measure these different types of impact. You can also read more into our exact definition of systems change. Let's dive in to the next key idea needed to create systems change. It's also called indirect impact, which is where the magic happens. This topic starts to touch on the how of creating systems change, which this course is all about. When we look at successful social entrepreneurs from around the world who have already achieved a targeted systems change, this is a trend in what we see based on the data they share about how much impact they have had before versus after utilizing more indirect approaches, also known as systems change. The first part of this chart shows how with direct impact, you can generally only have as much impact as you can grow your organization. It's linear. In order to have more direct impact, you typically need more money, more people, more of everything. So the amount of direct impact grows over time, but it's not enough to achieve the intended systems change. The next part of the chart shows how indirect impact can spiral out of control with its impact, and in a good way. The growth in impact is no longer linear. Indirect impact is the impact that you have helped others to create. Albina and Ciudad Saludable, for example, moved beyond the impact they created with their own organization by pushing for national policy and consulting with other organizations, governments, and waste picker associations in over 12 different countries around the world. In Peru alone, for example, several public bodies and universities adopted and embedded the Ciudad Saludable methodologies and strategies into their line of work. The result of improving the impact of others means that Ciudad Saludable has been able to create employment and improve health and living conditions for more than 6 million people living in urban and rural regions with low income as a result of its work for integrated waste collection systems. It is this indirect impact that we want to maximize to create systems change. We want to enable as many people as possible to use our ideas so that they can spread as fast as possible. And successful social entrepreneurs generally don't just do one or the other. They complement direct impact with indirect impact. So, The more we change the system around the problem by helping others create impact, the more we can decouple impact from resources and eventually, with the appropriate systems change strategies, achieve a tipping point where the solution becomes the new norm in a system. A beautiful thing. The tipping point is reached when the indirect impact keeps growing without your support. At that point, change becomes pretty much irreversible. Let's put it this way. You can ask yourself, if you stop, would your work stop too? All of this might sound a bit abstract, but don't worry. In this module, we will take a look at concrete ways that can help you get to this tipping point and throughout the course. So again, why indirect impact? The complex social problems that we want to tackle and the systems that are contributing to these problems are just too big to tackle on our own. We need to influence others, to have everyone as a changemaker, and collaborate to have a shot at achieving our systemic goals. If you want to achieve systems change, it is critical to maximize your indirect impact. This also means that it's possible to achieve systems change even with small teams, and indeed, many have done so. Take another look at the introductory module and later at the leadership module to learn more about this idea of inspiring changemakers in any role and in any sector you can imagine. Also, visit the additional resources to view a powerful chart and accompanying video by Canadian social entrepreneur Rebecca Oney of how shifting towards a systems change strategy within the healthcare system can radically increase impact. The orange part of the chart shows how they started to see a radical increase in the patient's reach through their healthcare solution once they shifted to a systems change approach and started influencing institutions, while the blue part of the chart shows how their impact remained at a constrained pace when they were only serving patients all by themselves. Now, after singing the praises of systems change and indirect impact at such depth, we'd be remiss if we didn't pause to discuss the importance of direct impact and avoiding the pitfall of thinking, my type of impact is the best. It's important to say, direct services are necessary and important for a number of reasons, and here are just 3. First, everyone focusing on just one type of impact would be chaotic and counterproductive. For example, imagine if every doctor and every nurse stopped treating patients and started to change the healthcare system instead. Yikes! That would be a disaster. As a society, we should invest most of our time and resources into direct services, like treating patients or managing waste. At the same time, we should have social innovators who can improve the healthcare system. Second, there are many problems which require a direct service approach because of their urgency. For example, issues such as emergency disaster relief or refugee support or healthcare. They need to be addressed with urgency. Thirdly, maintaining some direct service enables you to stay close to the problem and your community, to keep learning from and engaging them, to keep co-creating, refining, and innovating your solution, to sense how changes in the system are affecting them, and to continue building credibility. That's not something you can do if you're far removed from your community and the people you serve. The bottom line is that if you are passionate about staying focused on direct services, this is absolutely fine. It's needed and necessary. And if you want to maintain a degree of direct service, this is absolutely fine as well. But if you want to find out what you can contribute on a systems level, then this is the course for you. So, if there's one thing to take away from this module, it would likely be that the best approach for systems change is to see scaling not as growing your organization, but as scaling your indirect impact, the impact you help others to make. It's an approach that requires a greater degree of openness than is usual. Later modules will cover how to achieve this openness in depth. If you want to maintain a degree of direct service, this is absolutely fine as well. But if you want to find out what you could contribute on a systems level, then this is the course for you. So, if there is just one thing to take away from this video, it would likely be that the best approach for systems change is to see scaling not as growing your organization, but as scaling your indirect impact. It's an approach that requires a greater degree of openness than is usual. Later modules will cover how to achieve this openness in depth, especially the modules on the type of leadership and partnerships needed for systems change. Before you leave, don't forget to fill out the self-assessment in the workbook on your current approach to impact, and also take the pre-course survey. Your responses will give a baseline of where you currently stand in regards to having a systems change approach, and what you might choose to change in your strategy as the result of the practical exercises that will follow in the upcoming modules. Your responses are also critical to help us learn if the course is useful and how to keep improving it. So please do take a few minutes to fill it out. In parting, here's some advice on the core mindsets that will help you on your journey towards systems change in this course and beyond. It comes in the form of 4 mantras that every module requires. 1. Aim for systems change. See how you can improve systems rather than symptoms. Train your systems thinking and take a holistic view of the problem you're aiming to solve. 2. Use indirect impact. See how you can unlock change in the system and use existing levers in the system rather than imposing a specific solution. 3. Embody openness. See how you can build opportunities for the wider system to create better outcomes itself rather than needing to claim the work all for yourself. 4. Lastly, plan for adaptation. As you know, the world and systems, communities are always in flux. Keep evolving your systems change strategy as you go along and aim for a healthy system rather than a specific endpoint. The remaining modules will guide you through skills and practical worksheets that will help you with each of these mindsets for systems change. So what's next? Explore the additional resources listed within the workbook. Take time to fill out the part of the workbook for each module that will lead to your final strategy deck at the end of the course, and click on the next module to dive into exercises that will help you identify root causes to the problem you care about. Enjoy your journey.